My sister accused me of denying her the right to be a mother. My entire family sided with her, but no one knows my secret. I can't tell them the truth because it will destroy my marriage. That sounds insane, right? Just a month ago my life was, well, normal. Boring, honestly. I'm Sarah, 32 years old. My husband, David, and I have a small but cozy house in the suburbs, 2 dogs, and stable jobs in an IT company. We live comfortably, no debt, no major upheavals. The only thing that slightly shadowed our perfect facade was the lack of children. We both wanted them, tried for several years, but after all the tests and consultations, the doctors delivered a verdict. Chances were minimal and would require serious treatment that could take years and still not guarantee a result. We accepted it. David said we were happy just the 2 of us, and if we really wanted we would adopt. We put the topic aside, deciding to live for ourselves for a while. My younger sister, Emily, is 28, married to Michael. They got married a year before us, and they are completely obsessed with the idea of a child. Emily is that relative who turned her life into a reality show about the struggle with infertility. She openly posted all her doctor visits, failed IVF attempts, and her emotional state on social media. It looked like an obsessive drama, of course, but she is my sister, and I love her, so I just supported her as much as I could. I gave her money for expensive procedures, listened to her endless tears over the phone. David and I were always there, though watching her pain was difficult. And then 3 weeks ago Emily called. She wasn't crying. She spoke in an even, almost businesslike tone. She said she and Michael had a consultation with the doctors, and they concluded that her body would no longer be able to carry a pregnancy. One more IVF attempt and she could suffer serious complications. A complete ban on carrying a child. I was devastated for her, of course. We met at my house. David took the dogs for a walk so we could talk privately. Emily sat on my sofa, looking tired but determined. She finished her coffee, took a deep breath, and looked straight into my eyes. "Sarah, I know this sounds crazy, but you are my last hope," she began. "The doctors said your eggs and mine are healthy, and you are the only one I can trust. You're my sister." I didn't immediately understand what she was leading up to. What last hope? I reached out to take her hand, to comfort her, to tell her they could adopt. "I want you to be my surrogate," she blurted out. In that moment my heart literally froze. I felt the blood drain from my face. My mouth opened, but I couldn't utter a single word. Become a surrogate? For Emily? That is just so much. It's not just giving money or listening to complaints. It's my body, a year of my life, my health. I saw a spark of hope ignite in her eyes, the first time in a long time. And I felt this terrible, crushing burden. On the one hand, I could give her what she had dreamed of all her life, give her a child, her own biological child. On the other hand, the thing is, about a year ago, after David and I stopped trying to conceive, I had another, more detailed examination. I was diagnosed with something I didn't even want to tell David about. It's not terminal, but it's serious. They found a large uterine fibroid which, according to the doctor, not only makes pregnancy nearly impossible but could be lethally dangerous for me if I were to get pregnant. The risk of internal bleeding, emergency hysterectomy. The doctor said that if I decided to get pregnant it would be a game of Russian roulette and I might not survive it. I decided I wouldn't tell David. He was so depressed when we realized we couldn't have children. I knew how much he loved me. If I told him that my body posed such a threat, that even a theoretical pregnancy could kill me, he would simply break down. He would become obsessed with protecting me. He would fear for me every single day. I didn't want my life to turn into his nightmare. So, I simply told him we were healthy, just incompatible, and that we would settle on adoption when the time came. I lied to protect him from the terrible truth. And now my sister, with eyes full of tears and pleading, was sitting across from me, asking me to risk my life. I couldn't just refuse her without an explanation. But I couldn't explain without giving away my secret to David. "Emily, I need to think," I said, struggling to get the words out. "This is a huge decision. I need to talk to David." Her face immediately darkened. "Talk? About what?" "Money. We'll pay for everything, Sarah. Or do you just not want to? You just don't want to help me?" Her voice suddenly became high-pitched and dramatic again. "No, Emily. Of course I want to help. But it's my body. I need to discuss this with my husband." You know this is the only chance. And you won't throw it away. Otherwise, I'll never forgive you, Sarah. You'll be denying me the right to be a mother if you refuse. It was so unfair and manipulative, but I couldn't be angry. I only saw desperation in her. But that same evening when I told David about it, he didn't hesitate for a second. No, Sarah. Absolutely not. I won't let you do this. He was firm as a rock. It's not a favor, Sarah, it's a risk. It's 9 months of stress, hormones, and changing your life. And frankly, I'm tired of Emily's drama. We've helped her as much as we could, but now she's asking for too much. I don't want you to do it. He had no idea how right he was. It wasn't just a risk, it was a lethal risk. And while he thought he was refusing his sister-in-law a favor, I knew he was saving my life. I felt the knot of lies and despair tightening around me. I had become a prisoner of my own secret. The next day Emily called. I told her David was against it. And she exploded. That's when all hell broke loose. She told the whole family, twisting my words, saying I refused because I didn't want to ruin my figure, and was too busy with my own life. And now my whole family, including my mom, who has always been my rock, is looking at me like a monster. Over the past month, I've received so many cold calls and texts that I've just stopped picking up. They all believe I'm denying my sister happiness, and I can't tell them the truth because it would mean destroying the trust and peace in my marriage. I'm afraid that if David finds out about the fibroid and the fact that I've been hiding it from him for a whole year, he might not forgive me. The air in our house has become thick, heavy, and full of unsaid things. It's been exactly 2 weeks since Emily dropped her bomb, and the silence from my family is louder than any screaming match. Every phone call I ignore, every text message I delete unread, just solidifies the rift. I've become the villain of the family saga. The one who possesses the key to salvation but selfishly keeps the door locked. And the worst part is I can't even fight back with the truth because the truth is too dangerous. David, bless his soul, is completely unaware of the real problem. He thinks he's protecting me from a dramatic emotional entanglement and a massive physical inconvenience. He sees my refusal as a logical boundary, a line we draw to protect our quiet life from Emily's chaos. He's been amazing, actually. He holds me a little tighter at night, brings me my favorite takeout, and makes these offhand comments about how much he values our privacy and our choices as a couple. Every one of those kind gestures feels like a searing brand of guilt on my conscience. He keeps saying things like, "We are a team, Sarah. We stand together against their pressure." He thinks we're standing against emotional manipulation. I know we're standing on a mountain of my lies. I've had to completely detach from my phone. My mother, Eleanor, usually calls me every morning. Now, nothing. 0. 2 days ago she sent me a text, short and brutal. "Emily is devastated. I raised you to be better than this. Call me when you decide to do the right thing." The sheer weight of her disapproval is crushing. My mom and I have always been close. Her silence is the hardest thing to bear. She doesn't understand that I am trying to do the right thing, just not the right thing for Emily, but the right thing for me and for my marriage. I considered telling David the truth. I rehearsed the conversation in my head 1,000 times while doing laundry or driving to work. "Honey, remember why we stopped trying? Well, there's actually more to it. I have a fibroid, and if I get pregnant I could bleed out. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to worry." As soon as I imagine those words leaving my mouth, I see his face. Not anger, but pure, unadulterated fear. And then the realization that I lied to him for a year, keeping a secret about my own life-threatening medical condition. He values honesty above everything else. The lie might actually kill our marriage faster than the pregnancy could kill me. The pressure intensified last Friday. It was my niece's birthday party, Michael's side of the family, so I thought it would be a neutral zone. Big mistake. As soon as David and I walked in, I could feel the hostile energy. Aunt Patricia from my father's side, who usually loves to gossip with me, walked right past me without a nod. My cousin Jessie literally turned her back when I approached. It was a silent, collective shunning. Then Emily found me. She pulled me into the kitchen, tears already streaming down her face, but these were calculated tears. She wasn't begging. She was leveraging. "You saw Mom's text, didn't you?" She sniffed, wiping her eyes dramatically. "She hasn't slept properly in a week. She keeps saying you're breaking her heart. Not just mine, Sarah, but hers. She's worried about the future of our family. Emily, this is unfair. I whispered, my voice shaking. You're manipulating everyone. It's not that simple. It is simple. You're healthy. You can do this. Why won't you? Is it the money? We offered to sign a contract. We'll pay you double what any clinic offers. It's not the money. I can't explain it. David is completely against it. I used David as a shield, which felt cowardly but necessary. David is the problem? He's making you choose? That's not love, Sarah. That's control. You should know he's tearing this family apart with his ridiculous overprotectiveness. That hit me hard. She was planting a seed of doubt, trying to drive a wedge between David and me. She knows David has a dominant personality. He's not controlling, but he is decisive. She was twisting his genuine desire to protect me into something toxic. I walked away from her, my heart pounding. She followed me out, raising her voice just enough for people near the dining room to hear. Think about this, Sarah. We used the last of our savings on the final IVF round before the doctor gave us the final word. That money is gone. This is it. No more tries. If you say no, you are actively choosing to let me live childless. You are making that choice for me, Sarah. She didn't use the word sacrifice, but the implication hung heavy in the air, a silent accusation visible to everyone. I felt every eye in that room on me, condemning me. David came over then, putting a steady, warm hand on my lower back. He looked at Emily with a protective frown. Emily, that's enough. This is not the time or place. Sarah has made her decision, David said, his voice low and firm but not aggressive. Emily just stared at his hand on me, a venomous look in her eyes. She's your wife, David. But she's my sister. Remember that. And if she ever needed me to save her, I would do it without a second thought. Her words were a subtle jab, a hint of the moral high ground she was claiming. David missed the subtext, but I didn't. She was effectively saying, I would risk everything for her. She won't risk anything for me. The truth, of course, is that I am risking everything just by keeping silent. The conflict has escalated beyond just Emily and me. It's now me against the entire family, with David unwittingly acting as the wall I'm hiding behind. I feel like the walls are closing in, and I have less than a month before this situation explodes, forcing me to either risk my life or shatter my marriage. The secret I hold is quickly becoming a ticking time bomb. The quiet shunning evolved into overt hostility with alarming speed, accelerated by Emily's calculated public performance at the birthday party. That whole weekend felt like the calm before a hurricane. David tried to keep the mood light, suggesting we go out of town, just the two of us, to escape the family drama. But escaping wasn't an option. The drama was internal, a caustic mix of fear and guilt churning in my stomach. I agreed to the trip, hoping the change of scenery might clear my head. But by Monday morning, Emily had launched a full-scale offensive. It started with a group chat, the entire extended family, about 30 people including grandparents, aunts, and uncles. Until now, the pressure had been applied individually, in quiet phone calls or texts. This time, Emily went public. Emily. I feel sick writing this, but I need everyone to understand what's happening. Sarah has officially refused to be our surrogate. She is my only viable option, and she knows it. The doctors confirmed our eggs are compatible, and our insurance would cover most of the cost. She is choosing not to help because David is uncomfortable with it. She's choosing a year of mild inconvenience over her sister's entire life dream. I just needed you all to know why Michael and I are so broken right now. The responses came in immediately. A tidal wave of digital condemnation. My cousin Jessie, who was always my confidant, messaged, Sarah, this isn't who you are. Seriously, what is wrong with you? My uncle Robert, a respected figure who rarely speaks up, wrote, sometimes the greatest love is sacrifice. You need to consider the bigger picture, young lady. Then my mother Eleanor posted the most devastating message. I am heartbroken. I thought I raised two loving daughters, not one who would prioritize her own comfort over her sister's well-being. This is a cruel choice, Sarah. I was at my desk at work staring at the screen and I felt physically ill. My head was spinning, and the edges of my vision were blurring. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the sheer powerlessness. I couldn't explain. I felt like a criminal on trial, forbidden to present evidence of my innocence. I called David immediately. His voice was tight, strained. He had seen the messages too. Sarah, don't respond to anyone. Not a single word. They are being manipulative and disgusting. This is emotional blackmail. I am coming home right now and we are shutting off our phones. We are not participating in their digital witch hunt. He drove home and immediately took my phone and his, switching them off and locking them in our safe. He was visibly angry, but not at me, at my family. He was defending me fiercely, and the guilt spiked again because he was defending a version of me that was only partially true. He thinks I'm the victim of a pressure campaign. I'm actually the victim of my own lie. The ultimate confrontation happened 3 days later. David insisted we go to my parents' house for a forced family dinner. We are not hiding, Sarah, he stated firmly. Hiding makes us look guilty. We go there, we are polite, and we show them we are united and their attempts to shame you aren't working. We will calmly repeat our decision and then leave. It was a terrible idea, but his resolve was ironclad. The atmosphere in my childhood home was glacial. My parents, Emily, and Michael were all there, sitting like judges behind the dinner table. No one made small talk. My mom served the food in silence. Finally, after about 5 minutes of the heaviest silence I'd ever experienced, my father, Thomas, spoke. He rarely gets involved, which made his words twice as impactful. Sarah, David, we need to talk about this. Emily and Michael are going to have to make a final decision about the clinic next week. Time is running out. Dad, our decision is final, David said, his voice calm but steady as a ship's anchor. We respect Emily's dream, but Sarah is not going to be a surrogate. We have our own plans, and this is a massive intrusion into our lives and privacy. Emily burst into tears, dramatically dropping her fork. An intrusion? David, this is life. My life. If you love Sarah, you would let her help me. You are forcing her to prioritize your convenience over the one thing I've ever wanted. You are controlling her. That was the point of absolute tension. My mom leaned forward, her eyes fixed on David. Is that true, David? Are you controlling her? Sarah, tell us the truth. Are you saying no because you don't want to, or because David is forbidding you? The pressure was excruciating. All eyes were on me. This was the moment where I could have thrown David under the bus, told them he was the one refusing, let him take the heat, and preserve my own image. It would have been the easy, cowardly way out. But I looked at David, at his steady, unwavering support, at the man who was ready to fight my entire family to protect me from something he didn't even fully understand, and I couldn't do it. My throat was dry, but I found my voice. I am an adult, Mom. I make my own decisions, I said, looking directly at Emily. I am not doing this. I love you, Emily, but this is a physical impossibility for me. And David is supporting my choice. Emily's eyes narrowed. She had sensed a flicker of panic in my voice. Physical impossibility? What does that even mean, Sarah? Are you suddenly ill? Are you lying to us? You said you were healthy. We checked with our doctor, they said you were a perfect candidate for surrogacy based on your files. That's right. I forgot. When Emily first proposed this, she must have gotten access to my old, publicly available medical records that showed I was a perfect candidate before the fibroid was diagnosed. The old records were clean. The new ones, the ones that held my deadly secret, were private. I had a recent medical update, Emily. It's complicated, I said evasively. She pounced. Complicated? Or expensive? Or are you just trying to wiggle out of it? You know what, I don't believe you. You know you're destroying me, and you're hiding behind a vague medical excuse. If you have an actual problem, prove it. Show us the medical records. Let me see the doctor's note that says you can't carry a child, Sarah. Show the family why you are denying me my child. The demand hung in the air, aggressive and final. She wasn't just asking for proof. She was issuing an ultimatum that would force me to choose between exposing my medical secret, the one I kept hidden to save David from pain, or watching my entire family permanently disown me. I looked at David, who was now just staring at Emily in disbelief, and I knew the tension had reached its brutal peak. The time for vague excuses was over. Emily's demand for the medical records was the turning point. It wasn't just a request. It was a verbal slap in the face that instantly shattered the fragile peace. David's eyes widened, a mixture of shock and sheer rage boiling over. He stood up so quickly his chair scraped back violently against the hardwood floor. "How dare you, Emily?" David's voice was dangerously low, a complete contrast to his usual collected tone. "You are crossing every line. Sarah is under no obligation to share her private medical information with you, or anyone else in this room. This is invasive, it's cruel, and it proves that your desperation has completely consumed your decency." He was defending me like a lion, completely unaware that the private medical information he was so fiercely guarding was the very thing I had been hiding from him. The irony was suffocating. My secret was now a concrete object, an invisible file that everyone was fighting over. My father put a hand up to calm David, but David ignored him. He looked at me, his gaze firm. "Sarah, let's go. We don't have to sit here and be subjected to this emotional terrorism." As David reached for my hand, Emily interjected, her voice laced with venom. "Oh, you're running away? Good. So you have something to hide. Sarah, if you're actually sick, why didn't you tell your husband? He just admitted he has no idea what physical impossibility you're talking about. Is he really in the dark? Or are you both just fabricating this excuse?" That was the crucial, terrifying moment of realization for David. He froze, his hand hovering over mine. He slowly turned back to me, the anger towards Emily draining out of his face, replaced by a deep, confusing uncertainty. "Sarah, what does she mean?" he asked, his voice now quiet and hesitant. He looked at me, then back at Emily, trying to reconcile the protective lies I had been telling him about my health with the aggressive truth Emily was trying to expose. I could feel the heat on my face. My entire body was vibrating with panic. I had two paths: one, double down on the lie, deny Emily's accusation, and face the total permanent condemnation of my family, or two, tell David the truth right there, in front of everyone, and watch the foundation of our marriage crumble under the weight of my year-long deception. I chose a third path, the worst one. I cracked. "It's true, David," I whispered, barely audible. I do have a medical issue. A complicated one. But I didn't tell you because it wasn't relevant. It was about my ability to carry a baby. We decided not to have kids anyway, so I didn't see the point in burdening you with it." My mother sighed, a sound of bitter confirmation. Emily smirked, a cruel look of vindication. "Burdening him? It's your health, Sarah. And it's relevant when you use it to deny your sister a child. So what is it? Just a slight complication, or is it an actual reason? Tell us." David didn't look at Emily. He was only looking at me. His eyes were not accusatory, but deeply hurt and confused. "Burdening me? Sarah, my health is your burden. Your health is mine. We are supposed to share these things. What is this complicated issue you've been hiding for a year? Tell me. Now." The demand was gentle, but the underlying threat of his emotional withdrawal was immense. I knew if I didn't tell him everything, our relationship was over. But if I told him the whole truth about the uterine fibroid and the lethal risk of pregnancy, I would effectively be admitting that I lied to protect him, thus potentially killing the trust that held us together. I looked at the hostile, watching faces of my family. The moral dilemma hit me. Do I save my life by destroying my marriage with the truth? Or do I sacrifice the possibility of reconciliation with my family to protect my lie and the man who has always stood by me? The thought process took less than 5 seconds but felt like an hour. I decided to give them a compromise, a half-truth that would satisfy the immediate demand without revealing the true danger. "It's a fibroid, David," I said, my voice finally firming up, looking straight at him, ignoring Emily. "A large one. The doctor warned me that carrying a baby would be incredibly high risk. I would need constant monitoring and I might need surgery right after birth. I didn't tell you because we had already decided to stop trying, and I didn't want you to worry about surgery that I might never need." A fibroid. The word hung in the air, medically vague enough to sound serious, but not immediately deadly. It was a sufficient yet incomplete explanation. Emily immediately seized the partial truth. "A fibroid? People carry babies with fibroids all the time, Sarah. It's high risk, not impossible. They monitor you. That's not an excuse to deny us our child." You are still choosing not to sacrifice your comfort. David, however, was already shifting his focus. He put his hands on my shoulders, his grip firm. He wasn't looking at Emily anymore. His face was etched with a mixture of shock that I had a serious health condition and anger that I had hidden it. Why didn't you tell me, Sarah? This is serious. I need to see your doctor. I will, David. I was going to. It just never seemed like the right time, I stammered. My father then stepped in, seizing the momentum. See, Emily? It is a medical issue. Sarah has a legitimate reason. We need to respect that. The family tension momentarily deflated. They had proof, not of impossibility, but of high risk. The narrative shifted. They couldn't call me selfish anymore, only overly cautious. The crowd was momentarily pacified. But Emily wasn't done. She wasn't fighting the family anymore. She was fighting David and me. She pointed a finger at David. You know what? This fibroid story is convenient, Sarah. But I know you. You could endure a high-risk pregnancy if you truly loved me. And David, you're a decent man. But you're too protective. You're afraid of losing your cozy life. Here's the deal. I will pay for a second opinion. I will pay for the best specialist in the country. If that doctor says you are physically unable, I will drop this forever. But if they say there is a reasonable medically managed chance, then you have to do this. You owe it to me, Sarah. You owe it to this family. You have 1 week to decide if you will agree to this second opinion, or I will consider this a final selfish refusal. She had managed to shift the battleground from emotional leverage to medical reality, forcing the issue back onto my body, while simultaneously planting a huge seed of doubt and hurt in David's mind about my honesty. The ultimatum was clear. Agree to the second opinion that could expose the full, potentially lethal truth I was hiding, or face the permanent rupture of my family relationship. The air was charged not just with anger, but with David's quiet, wounded betrayal. The secret was about to be professionally examined, and the truth of my lie, the biggest danger of all, was about to be uncovered. The week following the disastrous family dinner was the longest of my life. David and I barely spoke, despite living in the same house. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken accusations and wounded pride. He hadn't exploded with anger. Instead, he had withdrawn. He was polite, remote, and spent his evenings either in his office or taking the dogs out for hours. His betrayal wasn't about the fibroid itself. It was about the year of silence, the calculated deception that had redefined our most intimate decisions. You lied to me, Sarah, he finally said one evening, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. We made life-altering decisions based on incomplete information. We stopped pursuing treatments, we restructured our future, and you let me believe we were a united front, while you carried this potentially lethal secret alone. That wasn't protecting me. That was shutting me out. I tried to explain, stumbling over my words, the guilt overwhelming me. I was terrified, David. I knew how much you wanted kids. When the doctor said it was a life-threatening risk, I couldn't bear the thought of you living in constant fear for a surgery that might never happen. I chose your peace of mind over full disclosure. And what about my peace of mind now, Sarah? Now I find out my wife has a serious condition, and I hear it from a spiteful family argument, not from her. You taught me that you don't trust me to handle bad news. The coldness in his eyes was more painful than any shout. Emily's ultimatum hung over us. Agree to the second opinion, or face eternal damnation from the family. I knew if I went to a high-profile specialist, they would immediately flag the size and position of the fibroid and confirm that any pregnancy would constitute a severe life-or-death risk. The full truth, the one I was hiding from David, would be officially documented and potentially revealed to Emily through the shared consultation, shattering both my family ties and my marriage. The moral dilemma was unbearable. Risk my life to satisfy the family and potentially lose David's respect through a medical report, or refuse the test, break off contact with my family forever, and try to mend a marriage already fractured by lies. I called Emily 3 days before her deadline. We met at a neutral coffee shop, the air between us charged with years of unspoken competition and present-day hostility. I need to know your bottom line, Emily, I stated, skipping the pleasantries. What happens if I refuse the second opinion? She didn't hesitate. The family cuts you off. Mom and Dad will disown you. They are already writing you out of their will. You will never see my children, adopted or otherwise. You will be dead to us, Sarah. Forever. I took a deep, shaky breath. That was the price. Total isolation. And what happens if I agree to the second opinion, and the doctor confirms it's too high risk? Then I stop. I accept it and I tell the family. We grieve and we move on to adoption. But if they say there's a chance, even a small managed one, you do it. Contractually. I looked down at my shaking hands. David didn't know I was here. I had to make the decision alone, one that would determine my life, my marriage, and my family. The choice wasn't about Emily's baby. It was about the consequences of my secret. That evening, I did the only thing I could to save what little trust was left with David. I made a choice that honored his earlier defense of me. I told him everything. I sat him down and handed him the actual undated diagnostic report from a year ago. I circled the key sentence. Pregnancy is contraindicated due to extreme risk of uterine rupture/hemorrhage, potentially requiring emergency hysterectomy or resulting in maternal fatality. David read it slowly. He reread it. He looked up, his face ashen. This wasn't just a high-risk fibroid. This was a loaded gun. You could die, Sarah, he whispered, the realization hitting him like a physical blow. You could actually die. And Emily wants you to do this. She doesn't know the full extent, David. I only told her it was high risk. She thinks I'm exaggerating. He crushed the paper in his hand. The betrayal was still there, a deep wound, but it was now overshadowed by overwhelming fear and a furious protective love. We are not going for a second opinion, he said, his voice ringing with finality. We are not validating her insane demand. We are prioritizing your life. The next day I texted Emily. One sentence. I will not be agreeing to the second opinion. My health is non-negotiable. The fallout was instant and catastrophic. I received a furious phone call from my mother, screaming that I was choosing money and selfishness over family. Then, a formal email from my father, cold and legalistic, confirming that they considered our relationship terminated. Within 48 hours I was blocked on every platform by almost every family member. I lost my entire extended family in a single month. The climax wasn't the delivery of the second opinion. It was the decision to refuse the second opinion, thereby choosing self-preservation and the fragile future of my marriage over the emotional tyranny of my blood relatives. A month later it's quiet. Too quiet. Emily and Michael have announced they are pursuing adoption, the tone of their posts suggesting they were forced into it by my unwillingness to commit. David and I are still together, but our marriage is standing on shaky ground. He knows the full truth now. He knows I lied to him for a year, but he also knows I refused to risk my life despite the immense pressure. One evening David came to me, not with anger, but with a question. Do you ever regret telling me the half-truth that night at your parents' house, instead of the whole thing? I thought about it. If I had told him the full truth then, Emily wouldn't have had the leverage for the second opinion, and the family would have had undeniable proof of my inability. The lie had actually created the tension, but it also paradoxically saved me from immediate exposure and perhaps saved my life from Emily's aggressive demands. No, I finally said, looking at him, because the lie I told the family made you stand up and protect me. It reminded me how much you value my life. The lie I told you hurt our marriage, but the full truth I told you later saved my life. We have to decide now if the love that made me want to protect you from pain, and the love that made you forgive my deception, is strong enough to rebuild this. I chose my life, David. Now we have to choose our marriage. He didn't answer. He just held my hand, staring out the window at the quiet suburban street. We have our lives, our health, and our house. We are safe, but we are also profoundly alone. Was the price of my life worth the loss of my family and the near destruction of my marriage? I don't know the answer, and every morning, I wake up knowing that the only person who can help me find it is the man sleeping beside me, the man I simultaneously love, lied to, and now rely on completely to rebuild a life from the ashes of my secret.